Debbie Saviano is in the house with us today. Good morning, Debbie.
Good morning. I'm not having any donuts, that's for sure.
Exactly. No, but good stuff there. So thanks to Krispy Kreme.
They're awesome. They're my favorite. Who doesn't love Krispy Kreme donuts?
Who does not love Krispy Kreme donuts? If you're going to get donuts, that's
you have to. They're still hot.
Yeah, it's a staple in the media business for sure.
It is a staple in the media business.
No, they're incredible.
Women's Leadership Live.
Yes.
Coming up.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Coming to Dallas. Irving, Texas.
And you've got some. Let's talk a little bit about the conference in general, if we could, and then we'll get into who's coming. But tell us a little bit about the purpose of this conference.
Basically, it's to bring women together to meet other women. We want to inspire. We want people to feel good, and that's awesome. But we also want women, when they leave, to have tips and strategies and techniques that they can go and use in their corporate world, in their business, in their job, with relationships with other women and other men, and in the business world, if you will. So it's an opportunity for women to come together. We're having 200 only. We want it to be intimate. We want it to be a personalized environment, and we want it to be where they come and meet women who have had success, and they can share their stories. And in doing so, women can say, hey, if she can do it, I can do it. Because there's nothing better. You have to see it to believe it. You know, my past as an educator, I'm a huge believer of that, of an advocate. People have to see things to know they're possible to do it. That's why it's so important to have the diversity, because everyone has a different voice. Everyone has a different experience. So, yes, we're very, very excited.
And you've got some wonderful guests lined up for this conference. One that stuck out to me was the wife of Vince McMahon.
She's no. She's not a guest. She's one of the founders.
She's founders, yeah, but she'll be there.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what I'm getting to.
Yes, she'll be there.
Because to me, that was like, growing up as a little kid, you watched
exactly.
WWE. But she's been a big advocate of all of this. And I wonder what brought her to the table to get this going.
You know, it's interesting. It's men and women do things differently. And again, no right or wrong. It's just we do things differently. So women, we're all about girlfriends. We're about sharing girlfriends' experiences with one another that we have in common. So I met Stacy Shefflin, founder of YBF Beauty. Mm-hmm. She had seen me speak. She had me on her show. She's on HSN with her beauty product. So she had me on the show. We spent a lot of downtime together, and we're talking about women and leadership and how we can serve women. What would we do if we won the $1.5 billion? What would we do? So we decided, hey, let's come up with a company, a program where we can do this. So she says, I have a friend who might be interested. And the friend was Linda McMahon. So we go to New York. We pitch our idea to Linda McMahon, and she's passionate about women, education, and the military. Those are her three passions.
Yes.
And so she says, I'm in. After a lot of discussion, she's a genius businesswoman, so she really vetted us for what was the purpose and what we wanted to do. Once Linda came into the picture, her background with business and what she's able to do is tenfold of what we would ever have. So yes, Linda McMahon, Stacy Shefflin, and myself are the three founders of Women's Leadership Live.
Nice. Do you remember the first one? Were you involved in the very first one?
Oh, this will be our first event.
This was the first one.
This is our first event. We have spent over a year and a half working on this, working on research, what women need, what women want, interviewing women, talking to women, because we don't want it to be just what we think. We want it to be what the stats show.
I've got you.
And what women say. So no, this is our inaugural event in May. Yes.
Nice. For some reason, I thought this was something you'd been doing for quite some time.
We have been working on it.
Because it's so well organized.
Yes. Well,
that's what it is. That's my impression. Like, wow, this is something.
Well, that's because we've been spending over a year working on it.
There you go. And I think the people you have involved in all of this is what's going to make this work. Of course, Linda having the footprint that she has as far as the exposure and all that good stuff. What do you at the end of the day, what do you want women to take away from this conference?
We want women to come away with the feeling that this was worth my time, and now I have some 3-5 steps, things I can personally go do. If they're in the community with nonprofits, if they're in the entrepreneurial world with their own business, or if they're in the corporate world, what can they take away from the conference? And it was worth their time. If it was value, worth their time, and they have specific strategies that they can implement in their own life, it was a success.
I've always said this, and I'm not just saying this, Debbie, because you're in front of me, but every organization I've ever worked at, the women were the smartest people in that building by far. And I've said this to Channel 8, and I've got some friends that are probably listening to the show right now. Some of the leaders over there are the smartest people that I've ever worked with.
Well,
and they're women, they're young, millennials. Mm-hmm. We've talked about millennials before we came on the show.
Yes.
Very powerful. What is the age range of these women coming to this conference? Who do you want to reach ultimately? Is it wide? Is it 18 to 80?
No. I would say probably 30 to 60s,
Okay.
because you have millennials who are just in many ways starting their careers, trying to navigate what they need to do, because the way they look at things are different than the people that they're working with possibly. So how do they navigate that? So millennials all the way up to women who are in their 60s who want to transition. So it's the spectrum of 30 to 60s.
And you are an educator. You talked about that.
Yes.
And you're a very successful businesswoman now. I'm going over your notes. You used to drive a yellow school bus.
I did. I started out in education. My husband and I were married, had 2 small kids, had to go to college, obviously, to become a principal. So I drove a school bus for 4.5 years. So yeah,
I want to make
There's
a
so many
confession.
stories there.
I want to drive a school bus so bad. I had a lady approach me at the Galleria one day. She recognized me from Channel 8, and she's like, "Oh, I just got to say, I loved watching you in the morning. You brighten my day." She's like, "Where are you at right now?" And I go, "Well, I told her that I was over here at 620." And she goes, "Well, let me give you my card." She was in charge of all the school buses in Frisco Independent School District. And she told me, and I go, I said, "I want to make a confession. I've always wanted to drive a school bus." She goes, "I would be honored if you would be volunteer to drive a school bus." So that might be in my plans for too long.
I will tell you, I have my master's degree in education, obviously in management, but I learned more driving a school bus for 4.5 years than I ever did in a college class. So, yes.
And also you have a background in pretty much social media strategist and expert on online influence. And we've always talking about that on the show and how big social media is to every business. And they got to gravitate to, if they haven't gravitated to it now, I don't know if there's any help for them, but it's something that I know initially. I remember when Facebook first came out, I was the first one to say, "Facebook, come on."
It's a passing fad.
Yeah, I don't need to be on. That's exactly what I said. It's just college kids up in the Northeast. That's what they're doing. It's just for college kids. And we talk about how big social media is in the business world, and you live and breathe that stuff.
I do. When I left education and I knew I wanted to do something, but I wasn't sure what. So I started learning from all those actually millennials teaching me on social media and technology. So for 2 years, I learned everything. And a funny thing happened. People started reaching out to hire me. And so and I'm known for LinkedIn. That's my area of expertise, but all platforms, because it's all about online influence. It's about, how many people are at the restaurant you choose to go eat if it's packed. You choose to buy products if someone's endorsing them, family, friends, etc. We were all talking about that before we went on the air. It's critical to businesses today.
It is. And do you think these big, high-dollar endorsements with these athletes, at the end of the day,
I think again, I'm biased, obviously, in my own opinions, but I think it depends on the athlete, the one you were referring to, nice, wholesome young guy. So I think there's a lot going there. But as Michael pointed out, they always have to stay within the realm of respectability in their choices and decision making. We've seen some who have fallen. Research will show you that people will take their family and their friends before anyone else on their recommendations, because if you're close to someone, you're not going to tell someone to go buy something if it's not good.
Michael, I'm going to eat crow here.
Really?
I'm going to eat crow at 7:26. Okay. You know why?
Why's that?
I'm a big NASCAR fan, and I've got to admit, there are some racers that drive with under a certain sponsorship brand that I could not stand the racers. I used to pray they would crash every race. And I would not walk in certain businesses because they sponsor these racers. So I'm eating crow right now.
You're ridiculous.
I am ridiculous. I know.
Wow.
And on the flip side, I would support the ones that I like. Yeah. So you know what?
Well, you're like-minded. That's human nature. That's the psychology of us.
But that's the only sport, though. It's only NASCAR. Like any other Michael Jordan or
but
LeBron
for NASCAR,
James,
that's all they care about.
I know.
I mean, for those brands, for those sponsors, you've done exactly what they wanted you to do.
Yes, but it also acts reverse, too, because if I didn't like Tony Stewart, then I wasn't going to go to Home Depot. I'm not saying that now. I go to Home Depot now, but back then I didn't like it. So,
good point.
So how is, when we talk about women in the workplace in this show as well, how is the women in the workplace changed in the last 20 years?
I think for the most part, people now recognize that you need to have a diverse group of people at the table. And before it was, let's be blunt, it was all Anglo men. And so those Anglo men were making the decisions based on their own experiences, which is the natural thing to do. But that's not reflective of society. So you have to put everyone at the table. Men and women think differently. We're wired differently. How we respond to things are differently. Our experiences. We have got to have women. And I think companies are now recognizing that and making great efforts for it. we're 51% of the population, but by no means do we fill the corporate boards, do we fill the top leadership positions. So again, a lot of work to be done, but I do think people are now recognizing that it's important.
Okay,
at least there's language and conversation around it.
Okay, let's take a quick break. We come back. Debbie's over here doing some heavy social media. She is a guru when it comes to social media. Millennials.
Told you about that word.
Yep. But I'm going to drop the G word today.
All right.
Guru, millennials, step aside. Debbie's here. And she's going to tell you how to do it. Now, she was over here taking pictures of the Krispy Kreme and of Corner Bakery, which she's got a nice, cute mug over here with a happy face on it. But it's all about getting your brand out there. And social media is one way to get instantaneously get your logo and your brand out there to millions.
Absolutely. And the thing of it is, you really do. It's like if you're I always talk about physical space and digital space. Physical space, if we're sitting here together and we're talking, Brian, and we're talking about how much we love Krispy Kreme donuts,
yes,
how we like them hot, the coffee's outstanding, et cetera, et cetera. You take that to digital space, it's still the same thing. The difference is you can affect a lot more people with your ideas and your input. The same as if you said something about another product. I'm a huge fan of Corner Bakery. I got my yellow mug here with my Corner Bakery mug. So it's authentic. It's not just made up, because you would not tell your family and friends to go purchase a Krispy Kreme donut if you didn't think they're the best donuts ever. You wouldn't do it.
True. I think food really plays well over social media.
Food is huge on social media.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Velvet Taco in Dallas.
Oh, I haven't been there.
Oh, my goodness.
Try it out.
Nice Knox Henderson in 75. Torchy's Tacos. So this type of food that's really photogenic. I mean, you could really, you take a picture and it just, you don't have to say anything.
Right.
So I would agree with you on that. The food really does well on social media as far as suggestively go try them out.
Right.
Let's get back to Women's Leadership Live.
Yes.
Let's talk about what someone can expect to do.
So the format's going to be, as I said before, Brian, we want it to be full access for women. So it's a conference, as we said, 200 women, because we want it to be intimate, obviously. And we are going to have women who come from the corporate world who have had their own experiences and expertise. So we'll have some keynote speakers. We've got some great people, but they're surprises. But we'll put them out on the website. But let me just say, everyone will know their names. Everyone will know exactly who they are. They're very high profile, successful women in some male-dominated industries, okay?
Yep.
But then we will also have panels. Linda is a superb interviewer. She loves to talk to women and pull things out of them that they're going to be beneficial to the audience. So we'll have panel discussions. And then we will also have breakout sessions. We're a little bit smaller groups so people can ask more questions and get involved.
I like the intimacy of this.
Very
I really
much
do.
intimate.
200 people is not a lot of people.
No, it's not. It's
not.
not.
So you really can you can ask the questions.
Get to know people.
Yep.
And if you're at a huge gathering and you want to ask something, there's a lot of people you don't know, you're not going to do it. But in that environment, you would do it, because we will have had time to do some different activities to get to know each other. Isasara Bay is our journey agent, we call her, and she is our MC, and she manages the program for us on the stage. She's genius. I mean, when she does stuff with us, it gives you chills. She's so powerful in her delivery. So she's going to be leading it off, then Linda with the panels, the keynotes, and then the breakout sessions. And we've even got it down to we have women at lunch doing mini mastermind tables. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Michael, let's see if we can sneak in on this thing. It sounds pretty good.
We'd love to have you. We'd love to
grab a wig and throw on a dress, and we just.
It's interesting. Not. I have no doubt that we'll have a few men who come, and I admire the men who step out, because, again, it's for women, but we wouldn't obviously turn anyone away. But men who come to that are very smart, genius, because they want to learn what's being done in the room. You were teasing me about the millennials. I learned everything I know from millennials. Everything.
Yeah.
99% of it I learned from millennials, because they live it, they breathe it, they did it. But then I took it to my level because of my age and where I am. But I learned from them.
Yeah. We've had them on the show, and they've kind of just on a couple products, they've changed beer, craft beer. They're pushing that movement. Craft coffee, gourmet coffee. They want a finer coffee. And we even had a lady on the show yesterday they're changing the way we do business as far as real estate transactions and how we send money and documents. I mean, there's apps that are being created to just make our lives easier. And so props to millennials like that. Now,
absolutely.
You said you know a lot about LinkedIn.
Yes, I do.
Okay, my next door neighbor is one of the executives at LinkedIn.
Okay.
He does something in this area.
Okay.
And he's always talking about the workplace and how it's changing. The hours of the day that people work it's changing. The way that the amenities that companies are offering their employees, that's changing.
Right.
Is that some of the things that you're seeing that?
Absolutely, because see, here's the thing. If you think about, we'll say millennials, they make up over 50% of the workforce. Their expectations for working someplace they're going to be totally different than yours or mine. And so the companies, if they're going to keep that talent, and they're an immense amount of talent, they're extremely bright, creative, innovative, as you just mentioned. So they have to adapt to that, or they're not going to get those people working for them.
And also, you got a company, you may have a big discrepancy between a guy that's been there for 30 years,
Absolutely.
that's in his low 60s, and then someone who's 23, 24 years old that's coming to the workplace. There's a huge gap right there. How do you bridge that gap between the two different?
Superb question. But you have to develop opportunities for relationships to be built, because at the end of the day, they're going to have a relationship in a professional way to be able to work together. So they have to learn the differences with each other. I actually go into companies and do that. I mean, I do workshops on how do you work together, because in many of those cases, those millennials are the managers. They're actually managing the older ones. And so that's even more of a delicate balance, because I was somewhere the other day, overheard a young woman. She met her fiance for lunch, and I heard her say, I just wish he would stop telling me the same thing every day. It's like, I got it the first time, but because of an age bracket, they want to make sure you get it. No, and they're like, hush, I've got it. Let me go do the work. So, yes.
No, you're absolutely right. I think and what's funny is she may hear it, but maybe she's not acknowledging that she hears him. She's like, yeah, I got you. But maybe she needs...
Well, out of respect, she didn't want to say, I've got it the first time, John, not the 15th time.
Yeah. Maybe she needs to say that. I don't know.
Exactly.
Then he won't say it anymore.
But that's one of the things as women, how do you learn to speak up and have effective communication with at the same time being respectful of the person in the leadership position? Yeah. And there's ways to do that.
There's ways to do that.
Because you're right. You have to be authentic in your delivery of coming back.
Well, but that's got to be a difficult situation. You have a company that's got people that's kind of aging and they're on the way out, and you got young people in. There's a cultural.
And the other thing is, those young people, they're like, why don't you go home? I mean, I've talked to many men and women. Why are you still working? Why are you still working?
Really?
Why are you still working? Yes.
Maybe they enjoy it.
Sometimes, yes. But then if they're not in a positive way, it's like they're really not enjoying it, but they do it because they have to for financial reasons. Yeah. So here's this young person ready to come in, ship sailing to go do a phenomenal job, but there's not a leadership position. So how do they navigate that?
Well, I know that the job market right now, it's tough if you're someone... And I'm 46 years old, but companies I think would rather hire a 24-year-old before they hire a 46-year-old, because A, they can bring him in at a lower salary, and that they're a millennial, and that they feel like the ways of doing business, no matter what industry you're in, is changing, and that he's there. Am I right?
No, it's so true. But here's the thing. We hear a lot about age discrimination and everything. And I'm not going to say my age, but I'm over 60. Okay, you can figure it out. But people, if you can bring value to an organization, they don't care how old you are or how young you are. So me, for example, I get asked to speak and train a lot on social media because of my age, which is ironic. But here's the thing. Any millennial could step up and do it. But they want someone to work with their employees, because they do have that breadth of ages, who can do it. So they look at me and they say, well, if she can do it, I can do it. Right. If it's a 30-year-old, they're like, well, yeah, of course they can do it. They live and breathe it. So if you bring value to a company, I would challenge and say, they don't care how old you are. Yeah. But you have to stay current. You have to prove, because the reason I'm good with social media is I understand the usage of it and doing it, but then I also got the years in the chair. I've got the experience.
I like that. You got years in the chair.
To know how to do it, just like never going negative on social media.
We talked about that before the show.
I'm so strong about that.
And I'm glad you brought that up. But I do want to say real quickly, you threw out a name earlier that does a great job on social media. And this could be a good example
yes.
Let's talk about Pete Delkus.
Pete Delkus, good old weatherman Pete. And I got to tell you, when he came on, total authenticity here, I was a little disturbed because Troy left and he had been a icon in our living rooms. Pete Delkus is genius. He has developed the best relationship with his community, with engagement. You know, he's on the air talking about the weather. He's showing it on the screen with social media. He's telling you to tweet in your pictures. And then when you do tweet your pictures, and he's talking to you about it, he is genius at social media. He's done an incredible job. And I think that's why if someone says Channel 8, the first name they're going to think of is Pete Delkus.
That's a good point. Good point. Very good point. All right. When is it? We haven't even talked about the dates on this thing.
Yes.
It's one thing I slipped my mind. It's like, when is this conference?
We have two things. The primary conference is May 19th, as registration begins Thursday evening. All day Friday, this is in May, the 20th of May, Friday, the 21st on Saturday, and we will end on Sunday at noon. So, May 19th through 22nd, but really 19th is registration. So it's
registration,
really,
okay.
Yeah, for sure. But we're having a road show in February. Linda and Stacy are coming to Dallas, and we're going to do a road show in Texas.
You got to come on the show.
Oh my God,
you got to come on the show.
We'd love
we got 2 hours of nothing but Womenship Leadership Live. I love it.
We would love it. Linda and Stacy and I would love to do that. And so we're going to do a road show the 9, 10, 11, 12th of February.
Hit all the media outlets, get some interest
And we're
going
to go on the ground. We want to talk to women in businesses who have their own business, women at the corporate level who are doing things that can help inspire. But we want a grassroots discussion. We don't want it to just be formalized on a stage. We want grassroots.
When you said it was 200 people, I was like, that's perfect, because you're not going into the America Airlines Center and just with loudspeakers and everyone listen up.
Right.
This is, it's not that at all. It's very intimate. And then if I have a question, if I was a woman, I could easily go up to you and ask
Absolutely.
it. I could touch you. We could shake hands. We could exchange business cards. However, great.